Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to my channel for another Threezero DLX diecast figure unboxing and review video. Now today we are taking a look at none other than the Hulkbuster from Avengers Age of Ultron. Now recently, only a few months ago, we took a look at Threezero's first ever Marvel figure, and that was the Mark 43. This is of course the follow-up to that, as these two figures go hand in hand. The Mark 43 can actually fit inside this Hulkbuster. Now Threezero did send me this production sample, so a massive thank you goes out to them. But if you're still looking to pick up your very own Hulkbuster, he is still available from toyswonderland.com. Link for that is of course in the description below. They have 12-month installment plans and an awesome reward system. What we are going to do now though is get the box laying flat in the light box and do the unboxing. Here of course we have the box art, and it's suitably classy. The Hulkbuster himself front and center, and yes, that is the figure inside, not a rendering from Avengers Age of Ultron, and then the Infinity Saga logo. You can flip open the front cover to reveal the Hulkbuster, as well as a few images highlighting some key features. And then on the back you do just have another image of Hulkbuster. But we're not really here to dissect the box, we're more here to check out the figure inside. Ever since Threezero started making their DLX scale line for Transformers and showing off their engineering prowess, Iron Man made perfect sense as the next evolution of the line. Some crazy engineering went into those Transformers figures, so as soon as they announced that they were doing these Marvel figures, I was super hype. And here we have the Hulkbuster. First in-hand impressions are pretty darn positive. This guy is one hefty boy. What we are going to do now though is get all of his accessories laid out in the light box and take a closer look at everything he comes with. Here we have all the parts and pieces. Now as you can see, he doesn't come with a ton of stuff. You are only getting some spare hands, which is interesting because the DLX Mark 43 from the very same line came with a display base and some blast effects. I was hoping at the very least to get a base with the Hulkbuster, but nevertheless Threezero decided not to include one. You do get some interchangeable hands though, some more relaxed palms, and also some more splayed out repulsor blasting hands. They are painted to the nines with some gorgeous metallic red and some shiny metallic silver and gold. You do of course get some closed fists pre-installed on your Hulkbuster. What we are going to do now though is get the Hulkbuster himself out here and take a closer look. Here we have him standing straight up and down in the light box, no crazy poses or accessories or anything like that. And for the most part, this guy is exactly what I was expecting. If you close your eyes and picture a DLX scale Hulkbuster, I'm pretty sure you're conjuring an image similar to what you're seeing in front of you right now. At least I was. He ticks a lot of boxes. He's suitably heavy because there is a ton of diecast here. The engineering is at Threezero's usual level, which is to say that it's insane. This guy can pull off poses I would have never expected from an Hulkbuster, plus you can fit the Mark 43 inside. It's a very nice touch. What we are going to do now though is take him off the rotating turntable, punch in, and take a closer look at the details. Here we have him up close and personal. And yes, for the most part it does exactly what it says on the tin. It's a shrunken down version of the Hulkbuster, chock full of diecast and some crazy engineering. You'll see what I mean when we get to the articulation segment. This guy can pose, which is something that I don't think I have ever said when reviewing an Hulkbuster. Now let's start off with the Mark 43 gimmick. Now in order to install the Mark 43 inside Hulkbuster, I would suggest moving his shoulder pads away. You disconnect these gold teeth on the front, and then you can slide away these side sections. All of these joints are super stiff, so this is non-trivial to do. I will probably be displaying my Mark 43 separately to the Hulkbuster anyway, but I'm pretty sure you'll want to see what it looks like with him inside. You then slide open these front panels, bring down these silver sections, lift the head, and as you can see, I've already stored the Mark 43 inside. Although it didn't quite work as I was expecting it to. You have to remove his legs and the remainder of his arms to be able to install him into the cavity. I was expecting to be able to fit more of him in there, and as you can see, the detail on the inside is few and far between. There are a couple of sculpted in lines and some bare grey plastic. It's not the most detailed internal section, but then again, we're buying this guy to look at the outside, not necessarily the inside. And when you have Mark 43 installed in there, he covers up most of that anyway. Plus, you do retain all of the awesome articulation, even with the Mark 43 inside. If you were able to fit more of him in there, you probably would have a ton more restrictions. You can also see that I do currently have the lights turned on. The eyes are a little bit more dim as compared to the arc reactor, which is incredibly bright, and in order to turn it on, you simply press it. I love when Threezero adds a little bit of extra engineering like that, just to make it as simple as possible to turn the LEDs on. There is a mechanism inside the chin of the helmet that you use to turn the LEDs for the eyes on. It's also a little bit of a clever trick. You don't have to remove any doors or compartments to get the eyes turned on either. You simply lift the helmet up and then slide this grey section forward to turn the eyes on and off. As I said, simple yet effective. Now I do want to talk about the paint applications. He is pretty much completely clean. Now it's going to have to be up to you to decide whether or not that is an issue. I'm always a fan of an extra level of surface detail. When you can have chipping and scratching and weathering here and there, it just makes it a little bit more lifelike and believable, plus accurate to the movie. But once again, as I said, down to personal preference. Let me know which you prefer down below, a completely clean look or one with a ton more battle damage. Now he does have these sections on the side that are apparently tasers. You can open up the front section to reveal the detail on the inside, or you can slide the top section forward and then slide it back. You simply pull this piece out from the inside and then bring that piece forward to expose the taser. You can of course do that on both sides. Prior to reading the instructions, I didn't actually know that that was a taser, so I'm glad to now actually finally know what this gold piece on the outside is. But other than that, this guy is as you would expect. He's nice and chunky, suitably sturdy, and as you've seen throughout the course of this clip, a ton of parts and pieces do move around as you are posing him, so do make sure that you situate everything properly. One of my pet peeves, and I know people are probably going to give me flack for saying it, but I've seen people display their Hulkbuster with the shoulder pads out like this. These aren't actually wings, they are more supposed to lay down flat to protect the shoulders, so just make sure you are situating everything properly. Now I know you all are probably going to tell me in the comments, Justin, I'll display my thing however I'd like to, and yes, that's totally fine, but if you want it to be accurate, these have to sit down nice and flush. And yes, this guy can totally do that. But overall, so far, yeah, I'm pretty impressed. Now for a quick side-by-side comparison, here we have the Threezero Hulkbuster on the left and the Comic Cave version on the right. Now it's going to come down to personal preference, which of the two you prefer. There are some things that the Threezero one does better and others that definitely go to the Comic Cave figure. If I had to pick between the two with them standing here in front of me, I would struggle, first of all, but I'd probably end up picking the Threezero figure. Number one, you can put the Mark 43 inside. Huge tick. Number two, the proportions look far better. And then number three, the articulation is insane. That being said, if diecast is your jam, the Comic Cave figure is full of it. There is a ton more diecast in that release. I also prefer the paint applications. The red is slightly more glossy and metallic, and you also have a ton of scratches and scuffs on the surface. Then again, you may potentially prefer the clean version of the Hulkbuster, and then you'd probably lean more towards the Threezero. But whichever one you pick, they are both 1/12 scale Hulkbusters, and they're both awesome. Next up, here we have the DLX Mark 43, and as you can see, he's significantly smaller. We of course did pop him inside the Hulkbuster earlier on in the video, so you had a rough idea as to how he would scale. He does look great standing next to the Mark 44, however, there is one thing that I've noticed, and it's that the gold is a slightly more muted shade on the 43 compared to Hulkbuster, where it's far more saturated. Is that going to bother you or potentially deter you from buying either of these two figures? Well, that's going to be up to you, but in person, it's not really the biggest deal in the world. Just going over articulation. Now, bear in mind, this is my personal copy of the figure, so I'm going to be a little bit more careful. I'm sure when you get yours in hand, you can push the joints slightly further than I'm willing to go. Also, there are a ton of small moving parts and pieces, so I apologize in advance if I miss anything. When you get yours out of the box, please sit down, take a minute to check over the instruction manual, because it explains how everything moves. Now, starting off with the helmet, if you can call it that, it swivels left and right. It's also on a joint that will allow you to extend it up so it can sit a little bit higher. The arms themselves do have separate moving shoulder pads. I suggest extending them out before you try and move the arm. It will of course go forward and back. There is a butterfly joint at the shoulder. You have two separate joints that allow you to get the arm up extremely high. Swivel at the bicep. You have a spring-loaded section at the elbow that will allow you to get a massive range of motion with that double bend, and then of course a ball joint for the wrist. Now the torso also has a ton of range. It crunches forward a significant amount. It will also go back, although that's a little bit more restricted. Swivel and then pivot side to side. Now the legs do have these hip skirts. I would suggest moving them out of the way first and potentially extending the legs down. As you can see, there is a joint on the inside, which is ratcheted, that will allow you to get a little bit more range. The legs will go out to there. They will of course go forward, and when you bring them down, they will go forward a ton more. You do have swivel at the upper thigh. You do also have a double bend at the knee that goes the full way, and some various parts and pieces on the inside that move in tandem. As you can see, as you bend the knee, this piece gets pulled down and all of this detail on the inside is now revealed. You do have a ball joint down here for the ankle, which allows you forward and back, swivel and pivot side to side, plus some toe articulation, as well as various covers and flaps that you can move around, so as you're not exposing the internal mechanisms. Just wrapping up on the Threezero DLX scale Hulkbuster. Going into this, I was very excited. Threezero are known for some very key things. Number one, their paint applications. Number two, their crazy engineering. And number three, their die-cast figures. this guy combined all three things into what is, in my opinion, the best Hulkbuster in any scale. That being said, the Hot Toys one is very big and imposing and impressive, but he can't pull off anywhere near the amount of stuff that this guy can, and this one doesn't sacrifice the look to get that done either. The proportions are arguably just as good. The only thing that he can't do is fit the full Mark 43 inside, but I don't really care about that. You can fit the bust, which is all that you can see anyway. The Hot Toys one sacrificed everything in order to get the full Mark 43 on the inside, and I think that wasn't the right call. Threezero did it the best way possible. You maintain all of the articulation and you can still see the Mark 43 inside. You've got LEDs, you've got die-cast, the paint applications are crisp and clean, although I will readily admit he is missing that surface detail that the Comic Cave one has, but I can get over that. This one is still my favourite. Now, Threezero did send me this sample, so I do have to say a massive thank you to them. You can still get him though from toyswonderland.com. Link for that is down in the description below. They have 12-month installment plans and an awesome reward system. While you're down there, why not check out the link to 6 Scale Network, the Facebook group. Come along, chat figures, share photos of your collection, and of course, see what's coming up next on the channel. Like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll catch you in the next video.